ay tanging ikaw. Pilipinas kong mahal, ang puso ko at buhay man sa iyo'y ibibigay. Tungkulin kong nagampanan na lagi kang paglingkuran. Ang laya mo'y mabantayan, Pilipinas kong mahal.
Rizal's secret mission. This mission, which Rizal conceived with the approval of his older brother Pasiano, was to observe keenly the life and culture, languages and costumes, industries and commerce, and governments and laws of the European nations in order to prepare himself in the mighty task of liberating his oppressed people from Spanish tyranny. This was evidenced in his farewell letter, which was delivered to his parents shortly after his departure for Spain. Aside from beginning his parents' forgiveness for leaving the Philippines without their permission and blessings, he said in the letter, "But as God has not made anything useless in this world, as all beings fulfill obligations or a role in the sublime drama of creation, I cannot exempt myself from this duty, and small thought it be. I too have a mission to fill, as for example, alleviating the sufferings of my fellow men. I realize that all this means sacrifices and terrible ones. I imagine the pain which I must give you, but I feel something that obliges and impels me to live. I shall strive with faith, and I shall win or lose. God's will be done."
Rizal's secret departure for Spain. Rizal's departure for Spain was kept secret to avoid detection by the Spanish authorities and friars. Even his own parents did not know, because he knew, especially his mother, would not allow him to go. Only his older brother Pasiano, his uncle Antonio Rivera, father of Leonor Rivera, his sisters, Neneng and Luciana, the Valenzuela family, Captain Juan and Capitana Senday and their daughter Urang, Pedro A. Paterno, his compadre Mateo Evangelista, the Ateneo Jesuit Fathers, and some intimate friends including Chincoy or Jose M. Cecilio. The kind Jesuit priest gave him letters of recommendation to the members of their society in Barcelona. Rizal, he used the name Jose Mercado, a cousin from Binyan. Before his secret departure, he wrote a farewell letter for his beloved parents and another one for his sweetheart, Leonor Rivera. Both letters delivered shortly after he sailed away. On May 3, 1882, Rizal departed on board by the Spanish steamer Salvadora bound for Singapore. With tears in his eyes and gloom in his heart, he gazed at the receding skyline of Manila. He hastily took a paper and pencil and sketched it as it vanished in a view.
Singapore. During the voyage to Singapore, he carefully observed the people and things and on board the steamer. There were 16 passengers, including himself, 5 or 6 ladies, many children, and the rest gentlemen. He was the only Filipino, the rest were Spaniards, British, and Indian Negros. The ship captain, Donato Lecha from Asturias, Spain, befriended him. Rizal described him in his travel diary as an affable man, much more refined than his another countrymen and colleges that I have met. He was, however, peeved by some Spaniards, his fellow passengers, who spoke ill of the Philippines. to which they go for pictionary reasons. To while away the tedious boredom of sea voyage, Rizal played chess with his fellow passengers, who were much older than he. He defeated them many times, for he was a good chess player. May 8, 1882, while the steamer was approaching Singapore, Rizal landed, registered at Hotel de la Paz, and spent 2 days on a sightseeing tour of the city, which was colony of England. He saw the famous botanical garden, the beautiful Buddhist temples, the busy shopping district, and the statue of Sir Thomas Stanford Raffles, founder of Singapore.
Manila moves to Madrid. While sojourning in Barcelona, Rizal received sad news about the cholera that was ravaging Manila and the provinces. Many people had died and more were dying daily. According to Pasiano's letter, dated September 15, 1882, the Calamba folks were having afternoon novenas to San Roque and nocturnal procession and prayer, so that God may stop the dreadful epidemic, where the Spanish health authorities were impotent to check. Another sad news from the Philippines was the chatty letter of Chenkoy recounting the unhappiness of Leonor Rivera, who was getting thinner because of the absence of a loved one. In one of his letters, dated May 26, 1882, Pasiano advised his younger brother to finish the medical course in Madrid. Evidently heeding his advice, Rizal left Barcelona in the fall of 1882 and established himself in Madrid, the capital of Spain.
On November 3, 1882, Rizal enrolled in the Universidad Central de Madrid or Central University of Madrid in 2 courses, medicine and philosophy and letters. Aside from his heavy studies in the university, he studied painting and sculpture in the Academy of Fine Arts of San Fernando, took lessons in French, German, and English under private instructors, and assiduously practiced fencing and shooting in the Hall of Arms of Sans E Carbonell. His thirst for knowledge of music, he visited the art galleries and museums and read on all subjects under the sun, including military engineering, in order to broaden his cultural background. Rizal led a Spartan in Madrid. He knew that he came to Spain to study and prepare himself for service to his fatherland. Accordingly, he rigidly budgeted his money and time. He lived frugally, spending his money and food, clothing, lodging, and books, never wasting a peseta for gambling, wine, and women. His only extravagance was investing a few pesetas for a lottery ticket in every draw of the Madrid lottery. He spent his leisure time reading and writing at his boarding house, attending the reunions of Filipino students at the house of the Paterno brothers, including Antonio, Maximo, and Pedro, practicing fencing and shooting at the gymnasium. At other times, during summer twilights, he sipped coffee and fraternized with the students from Cuba, Mexico, Argentina, and etc. at the Antigua Cafe de Levante. On Saturday evenings, he visited the home of Don Pablo Ortega y Rey, who lives with his son Rafael and daughter Consuelo. Don Pablo has been city mayor of Manila during the administration of the liberal governor Carlos Mad de la Torre on 1869 to 1871 and was later promoted Vice President of the Council of the Philippines in the Ministries of Colonies, or Ultramar.
Romance with Consuelo Ortega y Perez. Rizal was not a handsome man. In physique, he was neither dashing nor imposing, for he was a shy small man, a few inches above 5 feet in height. But he possessed an aura of charisma, due to his many splendid talents and noble character, which made him attractive to Roman's young women. No wonder the prettier of Don Pablo's daughter, Consuelo, fell in love with him.
Studies completed in Spain. Rizal completed his medical course in Spain. He was conferred the degree of licentiate in medicine by the Universidad Central de Madrid on June 21, 1884. The next academic year is 1884 to 1885. He studied and passed all subjects, leading to the degree of Doctor Medicine.
After completing his studies in Madrid, Rizal went to Paris and Germany in order to specialize in ophthalmology. He particularly chose this branch of medicine because he wanted to cure his mother's eye ailment. He served as assistant to the famous oculist of Europe. He also continued his travels and observations of European life and customs, government and laws in Paris, Heidelberg, Leipzig, and Berlin. In Berlin, capital of then unified Germany, he met and befriended several top German scientists, Dr. Fyodor Jagor, Dr. Adolf B. Meyer, Dr. Hans Meyer, and Dr. Rudolf Virchow. His merits as a scientist were recognized by the eminent scientists of Europe.
After acquiring enough experience as an ophthalmologist in Dr. Wickert's clinic, Rizal reluctantly left Gay Paris on February 1, 1886 for Germany. He visited Strasbourg, the capital of Alsace-Lorraine, and other German border towns. On February 3, 1886, he arrived in Heidelberg, a historic city in Germany famous for its old university and romantic surroundings. For a short time, he lived in a boarding house with some German law students. These students found out that Rizal was a good chess player, so that they made him a member of the Chess Players Club. He became popular among the German students because he joined them in their chess games and beer drinking and watched their friendly saber duels. After a few days, Rizal transferred to a boarding house which was near the University of Heidelberg. He worked at the University Eye Hospital under the direction of Dr. Otto Becker, distinguished German ophthalmologist, and attended the lectures of Dr. Becker and Professor Wilhelm Queini at the university. During weekends, Rizal visited the scenic spots around Heidelberg, including the famous Heidelberg Castle, the romantic Neckar River, the theater, and the old churches. He noticed that the German Catholics and Protestants practiced ecumenism, for they lived together in harmony and cordiality. One of the town churches was used one half by the Catholics and the other half by the Protestants.
The Flowers of Heidelberg by Dr. Jose Rizal.
Go to my country, go, O foreign flowers, sown by the traveler along the road, and under the blue heaven that watches over my loved ones, recount the devotion the pilgrim nurses for his native sod. Go and say that when dawn opened her chalices for the first time beside the icy Neckar, you saw him silent beside you, thinking of her constant burnout climb. Say that when dawn, which steals your aroma, was whispering playful love songs to your young, sweet petals, he too murmured canticles of love in his native tongue. That in the morning, when the sun first traces the topmost peak of Kinigstool in gold, and with a mild, warm races to life again, the valley, the glade, the forest, he hails that sun, still in its dawning, that in his country in full zenith blazes. Until of that day, when he collected you along the way, among the ruins of a feudal castle, on the banks of the Neckar, or in a forest nook. Recount the words he said, as with great care, between the pages of a worn-out book, he pressed the flexible petals that he took. Carry, carry, O flowers, my love to my loved ones, peace to my country and its vacant loam, faith to its men and virtue to its women, health to the gracious beings that dwell within the sacred paternal home. When you reach that shore, deposit the kiss I gave you on the wings of the wind above, that with the wind it may rove, and I may kiss all that I worship, honor, and love. But oh, you will arrive there, flowers, and you will keep perhaps your vivid hues, but far from your native heroic earth, to which you owe your life and worth. Your fragrances you will lose. For fragrance is a spirit that never can forsake and never forgets the sky that saw its birth.
The first letter to Blumentritt. On July 31, 1886, Rizal wrote his first letter in German, which we had improved after his stay with the Olmers, to Professor Ferdinand Blumentritt, the director of the Athenaeum of Lietmetris, Austria. He had heard of this Austrian ethnologist and his interest in Philippine languages. In his letter, Rizal said, "I have heard that you are studying our language and that you had already published some work about it. Permit me to send you a valuable book written by my countryman in our language. The Spanish version is mediocre because the author is only a modest writer, but the Tagalog part is good, and it is precisely the language spoken in our province." With the letter, Rizal sent the book which he mentioned. The book was entitled Arithmetica or Arithmetic and was published by two languages, the Spanish and Tagalog, by the University of Santo Tomas Press in 1868. The author was Rufino Baltazar Hernandez, the native of Santa Cruz, Laguna. Rizal's letter from Heidelberg impressed Blumentritt, who reciprocated by sending Rizal a gift of 2 books. It marked the beginning of their frequent correspondence, also of their friendship that lasted all their lives. Blumentritt and the Austrian became the best friend of Rizal, the Filipino.
Rizal's life in Berlin. In Berlin, Rizal was a mere student or a curious tourist. He lived in this famous capital of unified Germany for reason. First, to gain further knowledge of ophthalmology. Second, to further his studies of science and languages. Third, to observe the economic and political condition of the German nation. Fourth, to associate with famous German scientists and scholars. And fifth, to publish his novel, No Limitang Here.
Rizal spent winters in many temperate countries. The winter of 1886 in Berlin was his darkest winter. During this bleak winter, he lived in a poverty because no money from Calamba and he was flat broke. The diamond ring which his sister Saturnina gave him was in the pawn shop. He could not pay his landlord. He had to scrimp, eating only one meal a day, and that daily meal consisted of bread and water or some cheap vegetable soup. His clothes were old and threadbare. He was them himself because he could not afford to pay the laundry. Out in a faraway Calamba, Pasiano tried desperately to raise money. He knew his young brother was in dire financial situation in Berlin, but the crops had failed due to ravages of the locusts. The sugar market collapsed. Time was of the essence, but poor Pasiano was delayed in raising the necessary funds. Meanwhile, Rizal starved in Berlin and shivered with wintry cold. His health broke down due to lack of proper nourishment. He began to cough and he feared that he was going to be sick with tuberculosis. Never had he suffered such physical blows or penury, so that his soul cried out in despair.
Idea of writing a novel on the Philippines. His reading of Harriet Beecher's Uncle Tom's Cabin, which portrays the brutalities of American slave owners and the pathetic condition of the unfortunate Negro slaves, inspired Dr. Jose Rizal to prepare a novel that would depict the miseries of his people under the lash of Spanish tyrants. He was then a student in the Central University of Madrid. In a reunion of Filipinos in the Paterno residence in Madrid on January 2, 1884, Rizal proposed the writing of a novel about the Philippines by a group of Filipinos. His proposal was anonymously approved by those present, among whom were the Paternos, Pedro, Maximino, and Antonio, Graciano Lopez Haina, Evaristo Aguirre, Eduardo Delete, Julio Lorente, Milicio Figueroa, and Valentin Ventura. Unfortunately, Rizal project did not materialize. Those compatriots who were expected to collaborate on the novel did not write anything. However, almost everybody wanted to write on women. Rizal was disgusted at such flippancy. He was more disgusted to see that his companions, instead of working seriously on the novel, wasted their time in gambling or flirting with the Spanish senoritas. Undoubted by his friends' indifference, he determined to write the novel alone.